Hey, what is going on, guys? My name is ThePromG. Welcome back to a brand new video. Now today, what I have for you guys is a brand new first impression manga review of none other than Thunder 3. I believe it was in my most recent manga haul where I picked up volumes 1 through 3 of Thunder 3, which is a manga series that so many people have been recommending to me, and I finally pulled the trigger on. The biggest selling point for me being that this is a series very similar to my favorite manga of all time, Gantz. So that alone already had me interested. So I figured why not give these first 3 volumes a try, see how it is, and give you guys my first impressions in a video. Of course, if you yourself have read this manga series, I want you to go down in the comments below, leave a comment telling me what you think about it so far. Do you agree or disagree with my opinions that I'm going to share with you in this video? And also comment if there's any manga similar to this that you think I should pick up and start reading. But hopefully you do enjoy my first impression manga review of Thunder 3. If you do, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more manga videos just like this. But with all that being said, without any further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so the story of Thunder 3 starts us off in this very cartoony manga where we're following these 3 boys, our main characters, called the Small 3. And the Small 3 are basically your average elementary to early middle school boy, you know. They're nerdy, kind of socially awkward, love video games, and some pervy stuff now and again. The main boy out of 3's name is Pyontaro, and he has a pretty normal life, a loving, normal family, including a little sister who absolutely adores him. The boys also have this teacher who is a bit of an oddball. One day they go over to his house to play Dreamcast, and he says, "I got this DVD for $600 that will take you to another dimension." Now obviously they think he's full of shit, but they take the disc home, they put it in their PS5, which they actually call a PS5, it's kind of funny, and it ends up opening a portal to actually another world where Pyontaro's little sister, while they're away doing something else, actually goes into the TV and gets stuck in this weird world. The boys eventually realize that she's missing, they venture into this world, and then all hell just breaks loose. They find out that this world is inhabited by aliens in these giant spaceships that are hovering over everything. Eventually they start getting missiles fired at them, everything's exploding, they capture Pyontaro's little sister, and the boys miraculously come out unscathed. So the Small 3 now has a new goal of saving Pyontaro's sister from these aliens who have kidnapped her. You know how I just said that the boys remained unharmed after being shot at by these missiles? Well, turns out something with their biology and atomic levels, you know, the physics that they exist in their universe is completely different from their current universe that they're in, so they basically don't have to follow any laws of physics and they end up having basically superpowers, which seems like the perfect tool for getting his little sister back from these aliens. So everything is set in motion. That's a basic plot synopsis of the story, the first volume specifically. To my surprise, in the second and third volume, it actually kind of shifts focus to a new character named Tenichi Segami, I believe his name is, could be totally wrong, but he's kind of like a teenager who is, you know, an inhabitant of this parallel universe. He looks like a normal character. And after a couple displays of hostility from these aliens to the citizens of Japan, he basically decides to join this rebellion strike force who decides to take matters into their own hands and fight back hard at these alien invaders. So that's basically the plot where I am 3 volumes into this series, all that's out physically in English as of right now. And as for the story, you know, it's an action manga, it's pretty simple, so there's not going to be a whole lot of real depth to it, at least there wasn't as of yet. But I would be lying if I didn't say that the story so far to me is still pretty entertaining. Now the elephant in the room, you may be thinking to yourself, wow, this plot sounds and the art looks quite a bit like Gantz from Hiroya Oku. Now this manga is apparently written by a Yuki Ikeda? That's who's listed on the front cover here, but I am 99% sure that that is a pen name for Hiroya Oku. I'm pretty sure that's kind of the consensus, is that Hiroya Oku is writing this under a different name. And that would make sense because this manga is eerily similar to other stuff he's made, particularly Gantz. And as with Gantz, Thunder 3 is by no means going to be a mind-bending story with twists and turns that will just have your jaw open with their complexity. That's really not what this is. Thunder 3 so far is an action manga that gets you right into the action, and the pacing just does not let up ever. Rather than building suspense and tension and then doing big twists, this manga basically just has cool things and crazy shit happening one after the other to kind of bring you through the story along with our characters. Now, switching gears from the plot in the story, we're going to talk a little bit about the characters of this manga, which for me would probably be the lowest if I had to score the 3 categories: story, characters, and art. The characters probably fall the lowest on that ladder, not because they're bad, but just because they're kind of typical Oku action manga. They kind of serve the purpose to be in the crazy story rather than being crazy characters themselves. I'm not really sure if that made sense, but like I said earlier, all 3 boys in the small 3, the main characters, these cartoon boys, they're pretty standard. I mean, there's nothing special really about any of them. And then with our teenage Sagami character who joins the rebellion against the aliens, so far in these first 3 volumes, nothing is particularly standing out about him. He seems like he could be a character who's kind of timid, but still wants to get into action in a series like Gantz. Though I will say we do have a couple characters who get introduced in the 3rd volume really, who seem a little bit more colorful in this rebellion, who I'm sure we're going to see in volumes to come do some badass stuff. But yeah, that's basically all I have to say about the characters right now. I mean, to be honest, none of them are really jumping out at me, but that's not why they're in this series. I mean, if you're looking for Berserker, Blade of the Immortal level character writing, you're not going to find it in a series from Hiroya Oku, who I'm assuming this series is by. And finally, we gotta talk about the amazing artwork, which, if characters are on the lowest rung of the ladder, artwork is definitely at the highest, as you can expect from an OKU'S series. The art is just awesome. The first characteristic really at the forefront of the art style of this manga is, of course, the computer-generated style that Hiroya Oku has used for his other series like Gigant, Gantz, and Inuyashiki. Now, to my knowledge, Oku will make some sketches, they'll put it into some computer-generating software, and then he'll retrace over it. I believe that's how it's done. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but it ends up with the end result being very realistic, lifelike backgrounds, which in my opinion adds a deep level of immersion to all of his works that I've read. Partner this with multiple mentions of real-life apps, social media, and objects, as Oku often does in his other series, it really creates that deeper sense of immersion where you're not getting necessarily an escapist series, but more kind of crazy stuff happening in a world you could see yourself living in everyday life. Now, of course, the big twist with this series as compared to his other stuff is that they're kind of 2 different art styles playing into each other at once. Of course, we have the hyper-realistic style, but we also have this cartoony Doraemon kind of style that we see in the earlier chapters that these small 3 kind of look like, you know, super cartoony, old-fashioned manga, and seeing them get thrown into this hyper-realistic world, honestly, I think the clash of these art styles works really well, and it kind of got me thinking, are there any other manga that have characters from different art styles go to a different universe like this? I can't think of any off the top of my head, and honestly, it's a super cool idea. And another thing that I've noticed about the art in this manga that I really like, and I don't always see too often, is the artist drawing things of immense scale really well. Obviously, in this manga, there are big spaceships. These aliens are like 10 feet tall with big guns, and you're comparing them to these little short cartoon characters oftentimes, and just kind of comparing those things creates a real sense of scale that makes this manga seem oftentimes larger than life. In this sense, this manga really reminded me of like when you see the spaceships in Dead Dead Demons Dead Dead Destruction by Inyo Asano, and of course some of the aliens in Gantz, which is obviously no surprise. And the final thing I want to mention about the artwork is the utilization of 2-page spreads, which is something that Hiroya Oku is also known for, you know, getting these big dramatic scenes just right up in your face big. And these 2-page spreads I found to be really effective at bringing home the impact of certain scenes, like there's a part where one of the alien ships points its laser at this car and civilians, and over the course of 3 2-page spreads, it shows the step-by-step of these human beings just being eviscerated, wiped out of existence. Now, a couple last things I want to mention that didn't really fit into any of these categories that I really liked about these first 3 volumes. The first thing is the integration of real-life objects and like especially social media in this series. Now, I find myself with current manga and movies, when they try to implement social media to make it seem more relatable to the modern day viewer, it doesn't always land, but I feel like with Hiroya Oku's series, he has a certain knack to it. The way he does it is not overbearing at all, but kind of just sprinkled in here and there to extend the realism of the manga. You know, he'll have a character going on YouTube looking at tweets or YouTube comments about some crazy video that they're watching that they think is fake. That's actually, you know, real life aliens fighting. There's a moment when Sagami asks one of the small three to add him online, and it has like, you know, his normal QR code, and the cartoon boys is like super simplistic. Basically it's like a rough drawing of like a square with a couple squares inside it. I mean, there are multiple instances like this that not only make it seem more realistic but not too overbearing, but also adds a comedic sense to it. And the second thing that left a big impression on me, specifically in the third volume, was the introduction of some badass weapons. Now, with a series like this, you gotta have some cool machinery and technology to fight the aliens with. You know, it's almost like a James Bond film. The weapons that they use almost have as much identity as the characters themselves, and from the little we see in the third volume, the weapons look absolutely badass. They have like this serum or kind of nasal spray that turns you into like a super soldier who can bend like time and space. They also have these kind of brass knuckle things that kind of turn you into Doomfist. They're loaded with shotgun shells, and of course, when you punch, you're gonna get a big impact. They also have like these nano shield things that they use at some point in the third volume, and of course, the aliens themselves have these crazy like flamethrower guns. I don't even know how to describe it. You just gotta read it. The guns and the technology, all of the weapons so far are looking very, very cool. So wrapping up this video, what are my final first impressions of Thunder 3 by Yuki Ikeda? So far, I think this is a super fun manga. As with Gantz, as with Gigant, this manga isn't going to be necessarily for everybody, as it's kind of lacking a real deep story and deep characters, but honestly, that's not always what I'm interested in all the time. Sometimes I want a fun, fast-paced manga that never lets up, that's full of badass feats in action. So if you're a fan of sci-fi, a fan of action manga, or especially a fan of Gantz or Hiroya Oku's other manga series, Thunder 3, honestly, a no-brainer. Has probably anything you could possibly want and more. Again, make sure to go in the comments below if you've read this series. What do you think of my thoughts? What do you think about this manga in general? I'm definitely very curious to see what you guys have to say. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to go down, leave a like, and subscribe for more manga videos just like this. So yeah, this has been ThePromG. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. And as always, hope to catch you in the next one.